defend the lawsuit that is mentioned in the agenda. Start with Pledge Allegiance. Greg, do you want to lead us in the Pledge Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Director Hetherington. Here. Director Horvath.
Here.
And Director Odette. Here. And Director Rolfe. Here. And Director Dinan.
Here. All right, do we have any special orders of business? Any modification of the agenda? Nope. Okay, we'll open public comment now. It's an opportunity to come up for 3 minutes and speak about anything that's not on the agenda. Do we have anybody wanting to make a public comment? This meeting is going swimmingly. All right, consent agenda. Does anybody on the board want to pull anything from consent?
I'd like to pull the TDRPD Bike Park 10-year license agreement.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody from staff pull anything from consent? Anyone from the public pull anything from consent? All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the bike park lease agreement?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, okay. Mary, go.
Okay. As you all know, my big concerns with anything that we do at the airport are tied to community, safety, and protecting the airport resources. So that could come through because of liability. So given safety, similar to the TTSA camps and the other support that we provide, we have responsibility to the community members and their safety. Tied to the history, I looked up in 2017 is when $25,000 was given by the airport for kids' portion of the bike park. Understanding was that the park was for locals and for kids' usage. The feature difficulty has become significantly greater over time, and the risk, therefore, has become significantly greater over time. I support a smaller bike park and a pump track for the kids and for locals. But the construction of the towers, that's a question. Have they been engineered or were they just constructed? There's safety issues associated with that, and I have great concerns because that ties into liability. And, you know, in this lease, there's an indemnity clause, and we would be protected. If someone gets hurt in a bike accident, the claim would be against the biking nonprofit first, then against Rec Park, and then third, probably us, because it's our land. And my question for my fellow board members is, who has the biggest pockets? The biggest, deepest pockets? And that concerns me, because that's our liability. Zone B, which I pulled up, is at the end of the runway, and the compatibility land use map that is tied to the club map is, see, this is why I say I'm a dinosaur, but it is in Zone B. It indicates that 10 to 20% of aircraft accidents happen in this location. This is on final approach. Planes are set up coming straight in, and it's right over that bike park. The airport would not be responsible, but we could have a claim. And if we have a claim, we have liability, and we would have proposed income of $57.96 income. 10 to 20 hours of legal team effort is a wash. We make no money on it. It serves the community, yes, but this is back to liability. If we lost and paid out anything, any future insurance costs would go up significantly, looking ahead. Per the proposed license agreement that I read, the liabilities for the commercial general, The auto and the workers' compensation is for the licensee, which is Rec Park. If Biking for a Better World is in there doing the work, are they covered with workers' comp, general liability, and auto? If they're in doing the work, which historically they have been doing the work. And we only have Rec Park as the licensee, not Biking for a Better World. And that's a concern to me. Because if someone gets hurt, again, the food chain is Biking for a Better World, which doesn't have deep pockets, Rec Park, which has pockets, and we have deeper pockets. So I would like to see, annual feedback to the board. We've done a lot of projects in the community. We have supported this community, and I think it's awesome. And we get feedback. We provided an ARF truck to the fire department. Cost $500,000. They come back annually and talk to us. We've provided stuff for the search and rescue folks. They come back and provide that once a year. They come and tell us about it. Boys and Girls Club, we fund them. They come annually. There's nothing in this lease agreement that says that they will come back and give us some information. From the Rec Park, for say, what is their due diligence? How do they operate the park? How are they providing oversight, how it is being used? Numbers like, what is the usage? Who is using the park? What are those numbers? What are the injuries? Events being planned? Proof of safe construction of the facilities. Were they engineered? Is there a structural engineer stamp? Some of those are very tall structures. Competitions, maintenance, funding, all of those kinds of things which should come back to us. So I think given this straight-in arrival, as Paul Vatistas once said, with the end of the gun barrel, vector data, we have arrivals that come straight in on that. How many are we talking about in terms of aircraft usage coming in on 1-1 and overflying the bike park? And I would ask that our board direct staff to research all these issues and come back to us next month with additional information before we just blanketly set up a 10-year lease agreement with no feedback to us, no off-ramp if something happens. I just think it's too open-ended at this point.
Sven, do you want to come up to the podium? We've got Sven left here, who's the general manager of the Rec and Park District. Did you want to respond to anything that Mary was asking about?
I'd be happy to, okay. And I'll just start with, I view this as very constructive and cooperative. There is a long list there. I'd be happy if I could get a copy of it to work on the details and stuff with staff. Good evening, board members. Sven Leff, General Manager of the Rec and Park District. This bike park's been around a long time. There's some interesting things that you mentioned there that I think, first, once a year coming back to you, I'd be happy for each of the properties that we are either leasing from you, like Ponderosa and the bike park, and in some of the other ways that we've worked on projects, even the recreation center and the pool. I'd be happy to come back for each of those things throughout the year. Whether that amounts to 5 meetings or like just 2 updates a year or something, I'd be really happy to tell our story if that really, you would find that of value, because I think we always share the pride and the impacts of what we're doing. I'd be more than happy to do that. The one thing you bring up, I do want to address with respect to Biking for a Better World's role. And with my administration now coming up on 3 years, our management of that park facility is changing significantly. Since 2016, Biking for a Better World's staff were on our payroll. They were working in our official capacity, and we were doing the maintenance of that piece. But I have to admit, I did not see some real tight and real close management, and I am changing that. And this year, our staff, they have actually not been working in a maintenance capacity for us. The people working in the bike park for us have been hired. Some of them are new, some of them are returning. They're all at bike park experience, most out of North Star. but they have been directed and supervised by our maintenance team, and we are learning a lot about what we've got out there. And Biking for a Better World's future role with respect to maintenance, whether it's as a consulting or a service project, we're really trying to build them up as the nonprofit that they are and clarify the maintenance and the management of that park as the public entity, as the leasee, in this arrangement, which is why I think the agreement is properly written directly to us and with us, and happy to be accountable to you for that, the qualities, the standards, what's out there. The large feature that you see off Jorger Drive, we call it the tree house, that had plan sets, although it has been closed since it was constructed, because there's some question with the town about whether that was properly permitted. So it's been closed and taped and roped off. And there are other features, the whole thing we're working through with making sure all those I's are dotted and T's are crossed about the features in the park. And we're really working on that right now. In fact, this coming Friday morning, there's 2 members who are helping us, members of the community. Gavin Balls does a lot of the planning pieces, and Greg Porter is helping us with like the haunting and the water quality piece. We're really trying to clean up a lot of those, I'll just characterize them as loose ends, that I inherited and stuff. So we're trying to make it better, because from a public entity standpoint, there is a liability that's out there, and we as a public entity, sure, we're the first run, and of course the indemnity and the insurance policies are meant to protect the airport. But you're right, everyone's going to get named, and in the case of a lawsuit, and attorneys and stuff are gonna sift that out. So I'm trying to clean that up, tighten that up, get it all I's dotted, T's crossed, and properly managed and stuff, and that is what we're working on. So let's see, what else could I say, because there's a lot there. One of the things about actual numbers for use, because it's not a controlled facility, it's really hard to get an accurate count. It's mostly estimates. Because it's a unfenced public park, the standards of governmental protections for just people going out and using it as designed is got a greater degree of protection for our public entities, as opposed to if we had fenced it off, charged admission, and put lifeguards out there, if you will. That raises a much higher standard of care and much less protection to our public entities. So we think we're operating in the proper model, and we have to ensure that the maintenance is sufficient. We have to make sure that everything is proper, permitted, and it's taken care of. And secured in the off-season when, hey, okay, we're done for the season, we have to secure it better than we had seen it in times past. So these are all related factors to risk that we're trying to clean up and control and mitigate and address. Things like those numbers and some of those specifics, like I mentioned, they're going to be hard to come up with, but some of those, that list, it sounded like about 10 questions. Happy to work on that information and with staff. It would be totally appropriate, if that's material to the board, to provide that to you before adopting this lease. It'd be completely appropriate. I would not object. I'd work on it happily. If that is less material and you're still, pleased with moving forward today, great. We'll still get the information. We'll still work in what you would desire for regular updates on the bike park, Ponderosa, the pool, etc. So I think those are my initial thoughts to the many things you raised there, Mary. Thank you, for giving me a chance to listen to them, address them. Some of the respects to, I can't do much about Zone B. Some of those, those airport requirements and specifications certainly have to lean to the technical team of the airport staff. So I'm available for other questions, even in discussion.
Any questions for Sven?
I don't have any questions. I am curious about that treehouse. Was that, like, who, I don't know what I'm asking about the treehouse. It's just such a huge feature that you drive by all the time and you think, yeah,
What?
exactly.
Yeah, that was my first reaction to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Is the question how it came to be?
Yeah, how did it come to be? How, was it build it and then ask for forgiveness, or,
No, there is an email record. The plans were drawn, engineered, and stamped, and those were shared with a town planner, a town engineer. There is an email record that said, tree houses, playscapes don't need permits, you're okay to go. So Biking for a Better World went forward. And I'm not positive in my own just simple logic, human mind, I'm not so sure somebody read what those plans were, because when you see it, you're like, whoa, this isn't somebody's backyard playhouse. Whoa. And so the town shot basically an email out and said, you guys got to close this until we can figure this out. There's been a lot of debate, although it has not been signed off as approved. So there is very clearly in the email that there was, somebody gave permission to construct it, and then there's a difference of opinion that it was adequate. And so we're trying to work through that right now and stuff. So I think it was built in good faith from the original permitter by Biking for a Better World. So that's how we ended up with it.
It looks like some of the trees are being used to secure it.
There's 2 or 3 trees that were approved in it, and in fact, with the forestry project that the airport did, when one of the foresters saw it was part of it, thank God they stopped. But at that point,
Yeah.
the feature was closed, and it has been closed since, so it's not been a risk. If you look at most of the, piers, even if you're talking about a 12 by 12, that one tree stump is healthy and it's about 36-inch diameter. So in the short term, it's not a structural risk, but if we get that thing permitted and reopened, that tree's removed, and I want to stop using trees as anchors and construct it properly with footings
Right.
and posts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Greg? Question? Teresa?
Not for Sven, but I have one for
For anybody, go ahead.
you guys. I'm personally not that comfortable with 10 years without an off-ramp. That's just my 2 cents based on what we just went through at the campground. Doesn't mean I'm gonna vote against it, but I would like some sort of off-ramp for shorter term, personally.
Yeah, I think the main form in the agreement takes the form of a license agreement as opposed to other lease agreement types, and maybe Josh can offer the benefits of why that form of agreement for this particular thing, because it does give us a lot of off-ramp potential if we're not satisfied with the way things are working with the license agreement.
Yeah, and sorry, I was just pulling it up just so I could refer folks to it. And if you look at section 4 of the agreement, the second sentence, even though it's for an initial term of 10 years, the airport, because we're the licensor, has the ability for whatever reason or any reason to terminate with 30 days notice. So even though it's 10 years, there's off-ramp at any time.
Right. It's right here. What? It's
Page 4.
second sentence. Not page 4,
section 4, second sentence.
Okay, well, she's looking that up. Is this our rent study number?
Yes, that is our number.
Then I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to let you go last again, because I do have a question for Sven. Has your district discussed the aviation safety issue, and are you satisfied with that risk of aircraft departing over and landing over the facility?
I have not had an extensive conversation with my board, but as a staff team with the maintenance, with everything related to Riverview, I've seen some of those perimeter maps and the height clearances around the airport. Everything is a little lower, because the land tapers off towards the river. And so, in some respects, as we continue to look at it, we're like, yeah, we're comfortable. We have a good place here, a good setup, reasonably safe. I will have to admit that I'm somewhat trusting that back around 2002, when even the park was laid out, those debates, I'm trusting those debates were held, and it was still deemed to be a good public purpose for that space. And I think one of the best things about Riverview is in all the future conversations about, properties out here, is the park use, while it can spike, it's also temporary. It's not permanent structures. It's not typically long-term. So it's a really good temporary use of that space for the community without, building buildings. So a little bit trust in the past, and in our routine conversation, we are comfortable with the airport and the proximity and the
Okay.
flights, yes.
Thanks. And then question for Josh. Given what Mary was talking about in the liability, that chain of obligation there. How exposed do you feel we are, or how protected do you feel we are?
So I do think that it's a relatively low-risk situation just because of the different layers of protection if there was a claim before it would actually get to us as being responsible. And that, by that, I'm focusing on an injury at the park. If there was, the park district has insurance, they have an indemnity obligation. Only if those failed for whatever reason would we ultimately be responsible. If there was an incident involving an aircraft out there, that would be just like any other situation that we've run into when those things have happened.
And would it be different than any other lease agreement we've got on the field where one of their customers would be injured in some activity?
It's equivalent to the lease agreements on the field.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say it's the same just because it is a different agreement. The way Rob mentioned, also it's a different use. So there are some differences, but from a liability perspective, it's the same idea.
Okay. Mary, you have any?
I just, again, I'm reading from the club here because it is in a B1 inner approach departure zone. And I'm more concerned with approach than departure because that is the IFR, that is a standard way. They're coming in on the 1-1 and it's risk level high. This is under safety and airspace protection factors. Risk level high encompasses areas overflown by aircraft at low altitudes, typically only 200 to 400 feet above the runway elevation. And some 10 to 20% of off-runway GA accidents near airports take place here. And it's like at the end of the gun barrel. And on an approach, they're on final approach, they're set up looking at the runway, and I have concerns about an accident happening there. I mean, if it's pushed way to the north, the lot smaller sliver, kind of protected by trees. But when I drive by, when I first saw that, and at the end of the runway, I had pause. And and the more events that happen there, and as it's advertised, and I went through some of your minutes, and this idea of competitions, and we can now be as good as Whistler, and it's going to be more and more, and the more chances that people are there using these very high-end facilities, and we have more people flying in. I just, again, I work in a world where I represent banks and bondholders, so I have that concern in many ways. Very protective of our assets.
Do we have any public comment on this? Okay. Deliberation, we just heard from Mary. Greg, you have any thoughts, just in general?
Give me a moment.
Kat? Teresa?
I think it's risky getting out of bed in the morning. And I don't even live in Truckee. My kids never used it. I don't even know any kids that would use it, but I think it's a good community purpose. And we have an off-ramp if we need it. So I'm in favor.
Do either of you want to go, or do you want me to go? Okay, my thought on it, I'm sort of seeing it from the same perspective that Teresa is seeing it from. We have inherent risk in everything we do here, and we do, I think, a fantastic job of mitigating that risk. I was at your meeting when there was a possibility that with your partnership with Biking for a Better World would discontinue, and people were afraid of this, and there was astronomical public support for the park. That, and this board has made decisions in the past based on overwhelming public support for things that we had questions about. for those reasons, and the aviation thing is a concern. I'm actually more concerned about departures than I would be about arrivals for like single engine aircraft losing an engine, but we're then also trying to encourage these pilots to use an alternate runway, which we're having some success with. So I feel like we can't reduce the risk to zero. The off-ramp is there. I'm comfortable with it.
I'm also comfortable with it. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I really don't have concerns about a plane crash there. I mean, I have concerns in general about a plane crash anywhere, but I don't think that that's any more or less likely than any other spot around the airport. My concern, I feel like, is more about the structures, or the structure, which I didn't realize had been closed. And after this discussion, it seems like there's a lot more attention being paid than I previously knew to those safety issues in the park. So I think, you know, I feel more comfortable than I did coming in. And I'm okay.
Do we have a motion?
I don't have the sample in front of me, but I'll move that we approve the 10-year lease. Is that good enough?
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
No.
Okay. The motion carries. Thanks for the research.
A
on
lease
that.
or a license?
License.
The license.
Yeah.
And if I may, I just, thank you, and thank you to staff for working on this and continuing to partner. If you will get that list to staff, I will work on that, and I will also work on when to come back to you guys with any sort of recreation update. I'd be happy to. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, guys.
All right, we have no
Excellent.
action items tonight, so moving on to discussion item number 5, JSX charter operations at Truckee Tahoe Airport. Rob?
Yeah, I'll start that, and then our Director of Aviation, Jeff, will add as well. So we've been approached by a public charter operator, goes by the name of JSX, operates in a similar fashion to the previous public charter operator we had here, known as Surf Air. They just operate a different platform. Surf Air operated a 9-passenger Pilatus or something similar to that. JSX is proposing to operate a 30-passenger aircraft ATR 42-600, which is what's depicted here in this photo. If you go to the next slide, JSX is a public charter operator. You do see them listed when you do Google search for flights for various destinations. They do actually show up as along with commercial commercial operators out of airports. There are provisions as a public charter operation to operate out of general aviation airports, not just out of commercial airports. And so you find almost every one of the JSX operations is operating out of an FBO at a smaller airport. If they are at the larger airports, they're operating out of FBO at a larger airport. This is their business model. They have come to us and are interested in operating out of Truckee. And so we thought we'd good idea to start talking about this, and we expect to have something in front of the board this next month in September as a formal proposal between JSX and Truckee Tahoe Airport to begin offering some terminal space for their operations. Of course, as a public charter operator, they can come and fly in out of this airport without our consent. So it's about the facilities and services and support that we would offer them that they would need from us to operate here. Is what we're discussing with them now. So we thought we'd share a little bit about what JSX is about and what we're talking about. So folks across the community would have an idea what this is and how it is different from a commercial scheduled service operated airline. Next slide. So JSX is the name of the aircraft, the company. They go by a few other full names. TRK is the acronym for this airport here. The aircraft they're proposing to operate in and out of here is the ATR 42-600. That QR code you see on the screen, you can link to the ATR website. It gives you all the characterizations of detail of the actual platform of the aircraft itself. There's a few of these flyers, 2-pagers laying around the room here, if you care to look at one. They are proposing to operate 4 days a week, 1 flight per day. A maximum they are allowed to operate under this public charter provision with the FAA and the Department of Transportation is 30 passengers. So they plan on configuring that aircraft you see there with 2 rows of 15 seats. And they plan on operating, they haven't disclosed what airports they plan on flying to out of Truckee, other than the Bay Area and the LA Basin. And so they're working on exactly what routes they are going to focus on in those 2 areas. They're talking about leasing some space, much like the previous Surf Air did. We call it our fireplace lobby right inside the main entrance here. Perhaps some parking places here, some assistance from our operations team with handling baggage for them. In order to operate, they have to follow some of the TSA rules, but not all of them. So they do baggage screening. They do metal detectors for their passengers, verifying identity, but it's not to the same level that you would find at a commercial airport TSA operation. There's different provisions they will be operating under in different security protocols that they would have to operate. The chart you see in the bottom here, across the bottom of the screen there, is just to give you an idea of what the aircraft itself would look like as far as the footprint compared to other aircraft that we see operating out here on a regular basis. The route that this is based on is from here to Oakland, TRK to OAK, Oakland. So you see on the left-hand column, the ATR 42-600, the typical Pilatus PC-12, a Cirrus, et cetera. Across the left side there, the various size of aircraft that we're saying on average what we see, what we would expect as far as passenger count for the new aircraft, ATR 42, they could take a max of 30. We would say, maybe they'll operate at 20 on a regular basis, passengers. And this is the type of passengers down that column we see getting off the aircraft here of these different type of aircraft on a regular basis. It's not a lot typically for the private business aviation aircraft that operate here on a regular basis. The total fuel burn for each of these aircraft platforms you see there, fuel per passenger between that route from here to Oakland, the CO2 associated with that, and then the noise footprint based on the airframe engine type that they are there has a different rating. The higher number means it's louder than the lower number, the 1 through 5 scale there. So that gives you an idea of what this aircraft footprint would look like operating in and out of here. And then we turn over to Jeff to talk about the next slide. Thank you.
So what's depicted here is just looking at our total number of operations and assuming that they operated 4 times a week. So 4 times a week, 208 operations a year. And we compared it to kind of a couple different ways to measure it. So if you look at our total operations, all aircraft, the top, last year we had 32,700. When you look at from 2016 to 2024, let me correct that. From 16 to 24, it's 32,700 is our average. Last year we were 30,536. So if they were to operate here, it would be a 0.6 of 1% increase in operations. 208 operations. Big picture, it's in the noise level. We hit that fluctuation based on weather, buyers, how the economy's doing. Then we compared it to powered aircraft, where we have the glider operations, so then it becomes 0.7%. If you compare it to turbo, so the ATR 42 is a twin engine turbo, it's not a jet. If you compare it there, it's about a 3.4% increase. If you compare it to jet operations, ironically, last year we were within 13 operations over our 6-year average for jet, it's 4.6%. Then if you compare it weight to weight, so
our category, or what we call Type 5, which is a max takeoff weight between 20,000 and 50,000 pounds. The ATR 42 operates around the 40,000 pound mark. It's about a 12% increase in operations just for that one demographic. The easiest example is Surf Air. Surf Air was maybe upwards of 50. They never quite hit that. They would regularly be in the 20s. A couple times they hit 40 operations a month. So similar to Surf Air.
Yeah, just the last note on there is that what we aren't calculating here, we don't know until we probably see it live, is does the development of this type of service, public charter service out of this airport, does that decrease passenger flow across other platforms that normally come in here? So are we shifting from one aircraft to another aircraft so we don't see increase in actual operations? We don't know that. Does it have fewer people on the road from Reno that fly in Reno that drive up here? We don't know that. There certainly will be some impact of that. But that's just something we'll have to, if we move forward with this, I don't know if we'll ever have really good numbers on that, avoided traffic or avoided other aircraft operations. But certainly there'll be some of that. And that is, I think, all the slides we had, and we want to open up to questions the board might have of where we're at in this process or questions about this platform. We're not here to represent the company, but just how it might work for this community.
Teresa, any questions?
Yeah, do we have any projections on what we would charge them and how much money we would make?
We're in the beginning development with them about what our charges would be on that, but we haven't come to a conclusion yet. It's certainly subject to negotiations with the charter operator.
So not yet.
Not yet. Probably we'll have that all dialed up for the board this next month. Yep.
That's it.
Greg? Any questions? No questions. Kat, any questions?
I think this is a stupid question, but does this change our airport designation by having scheduled flights?
It does not. Actually, Surf Air, for the last 6 months before they ceased operations in July, actually I think it was earlier than that, by contract it was July, but they were running a scheduled service here as well, just with a
okay.
smaller aircraft.
Okay,
It just didn't take off very well.
right, okay, thanks.
Yep.
Mary?
No.
No questions. I've got, there's a few, to clarify, and I think this is mainly for the public watching. We have no choice. The board will not be asked, do you want this to happen or not? If they want to do this and they satisfy the requirements that the FAA have set forth, we have to provide space for them. Is that true?
That is correct.
Okay. Piggybacking on Kat's absolutely not stupid question, I had down here, is this going to, when we think about the class of runway that we've got, presumably they're using 1129, does this increase in operations trigger any sort of maintenance or reinforcement we would have to do on the runway surface?
At this time, I don't anticipate, given the IMTO of the aircraft and the frequency of the operations they're proposing, it would be negligible increase to our pavement management plan.
Okay, gotcha. And I also just had a note about the Reno drives. I mean, presumably, not every aircraft is leaving with 30 people in it, but if it's 20 people, that's 40 round trips to Reno, basically, off, that
Potentially, right.
is not
Right.
going to happen. So there's a plus there. And then the only thing, and I know under the heading of we have no choice about this, the one thing that does spook me that I hope JSX would consider is that they want to get started in the winter, and we can have bad weather in the winter, as we saw last winter. And I would hope that their procedures would allow for them to divert to Reno instead of trying to get into Truckee if things are not ideal here, as opposed to feeling like they have an obligation to their customers for getting into Truckee.
Yeah, we certainly had that conversation with their personnel, both on-site here and over Zoom. and did clearly identify the weather issues in this mountainous terrain, both on a regular basis in the afternoon, just with winds over the ridge, and also the winter weather unpredictability and the fact that we may be closed for days at a time after storms. And so when they may be advertising a scheduled service, they may not be able to fulfill that. How they deal with that, we're not sure yet, but we did make them aware of that. And certainly there are repercussions for them for not fulfilling their published scheduled service on the FAA Department of Transportation side.
And do you anticipate any impacts on, maybe this is a Vince question, on the way that we address snow events in having to prioritize their departures or arrivals?
Right now, the way we are treating it is the prioritization that we always have, at least the last couple of years, and that is getting primary runway open first and a way to get off the runway for folks. And then we slowly work on the rest of the operations. But I don't anticipate having any kind of criteria where somehow we would favor this operator over our other operators that come in and out of here on a regular basis. Other charter operators, other local tenants. I don't see how we would prioritize or favor one operator over the others.
Do we have any public comment on this?
David, can I add a follow-up to that?
Yeah, we can go right into,
Well, just I guess less concern about favoritism and more, would they have increased leverage to advocate for different timelines around?
It certainly could be a negotiation, and we could put a price to that. But depending on conditions, we may or may not be able to deliver that priority, I would say. So it would be very difficult for us to promise, to overpromise to keep a schedule. We could certainly, I think the way we're currently set up is get somebody able to land here or take off and get off the runway. And typically the get off the runway is right to the terminal here. Fuel service, other baggage handling, all kinds of other things become a secondary priority to getting runways and taxiways open. So that's our primary to serve all of our customers.
that's good. Mary, any thoughts on this? No thoughts? Teresa, any more thoughts?
No, but I had one more follow-up question. I don't know who can answer it, but can this plane fly with one engine?
We'll defer to our
Yes.
multi-engine pilot.
Yes, so the way aircraft are designed, if it has two engines, it's designed to fly with one engine. So the answer is yes, it can.
Great.
Kat, any? So you don't, there's no direction or board action, this was just an information?
Yes, definitely want to answer questions as a group the board might have about this discussion. I know I've informed in various ways over email, but just to have this feedback mechanism, let the public know that we're in these discussions so it's not a surprise and maybe not misinterpreted by members of the public that all of a sudden we're having commercial service here. This is not commercial service. This will be scheduled service, but it will be limited.
Okay, and then is the goal or the expectation that in our board meeting next month, that we will have an agreement to see, and if the public wanted to come to discuss that, that would be an opportunity for them?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, now the questions are coming. Go.
This is more of a comment, really. I just feel like this is something that has to be managed extremely carefully from the communication side, because I think everyone in this room understands what this is, but nobody out there understands what this is. And I think it's going to have to be very rolled out very carefully and very thoughtfully.
Greg, you had something else?
Well, I want to add to that comment. The good news is they only fly in the middle of the day. There's no night flights.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I think it's a great thing, but I just think there's some people going to be triggered by.
Oh, I do have a follow-up question. I think you said one flight per day? Is that an in and an out, right? They're not spending the night here.
Correct. It's usually a 45-minute turn is what they talk about. So it's part of their business models. The passengers show up at the terminal about 15 minutes before the flight. And the flight's landing, they're checking their bags, they're checking their IDs, and they're getting on the plane. Much like a lot of the charter operators that you see here on a regular basis, that fast. So they land, exit passengers, load passengers, maybe get fuel, and then they're off again. Right.
You were reaching for your mic, did you? No, okay, Greg, did you?
Can you go back? I think it was 2 slides. One more. Can't. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I don't. There was the terminology on like a like scheduled charter. What are the limits on scheduled charters and the number of, if any, limits on the number of operations that a scheduled charter can do out of a GA?
The limitation is...
Clearly, we're blurring the lines here on heading towards commercial operations. So I'm just trying to understand what are the boundaries of that, because I think to a lot of people, and this is sort of Kat's point, like this looks a lot like a commercial operation.
Right. I think the limitation, the way I understand it, in the Department of Transportation, FAA rules, and the way they plan on operating as a public charter, is that 30 passenger max number right there.
Okay.
They can't operate with any more than that. They can operate multiple times a day. That is acceptable, but the actual aircraft passenger totals in the methodology they check people in has some requirements around it.
Okay, so the single constraint to fit that definition is the number of passengers on the airplane. Okay.
Absolutely.
And the discrepancy between 30 passengers here and 20 that's in the chart is the difference between the capacity and the expected usage?
Yeah, notionally, we're applying this expected usage, right, to give it similar numbers here. Right.
Okay, thanks.
Just my summary comments on this. For people who have not been on the airport board for years and on staff, this is a philosophical discussion that we've had for a long time. What happens when this eventually comes? Because there's the concern, as Kat pointed out, that, and Greg, that this appears that we are expanding the airport to be something that it's not right now. And the flip side of that is people feeling that, well, maybe now the airport is of greater benefit to more people, you know. And when we think of one operation per day, this is not a commitment from JSX that they will be here forever. They're certainly going to try this out, and if it's not profitable to them, they'll leave. If it is profitable to them, and they wanted to go to 2 or 3 flights a day, which is, you know, understandably a concern, that also sort of demonstrates that there's a benefit to people in this region for using the service. This is why we've had these conversations for so many years on. There's no easy perspective to have on this, because it depends on whether you will find value in this or whether you will just interpret it as an expansion of airport operations. So it's, just again, summary, the board is not being asked if we approve this or not. We have no choice but to allow them to operate here based on the FAA requirements. Okay. Greg.
Being a public charter, do they have any sort of different leverage to discuss landing fees other than any other airport user?
Sure, they can negotiate all kinds of things. They can ask, right?
Okay. But do they have any different type of leverage?
No, they have no leverage to not meet the same requirements every other operator does here.
Great.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay.
I've got another one, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Kat.
I have a couple.
No, I know. This is a real. I'm glad
And then
we're having the conversation. This is a big topic.
Is there any way to nudge them to use SAF?
So that will be the only fuel we'll offer them here.
Oh, right, but they don't have to fuel up here.
They don't have to, but most likely they will on a regular basis. Given the flight distances they're talking about, they'll probably take on 200 to 300 gallons potentially every flight.
Okay.
We've talked to them about that.
Okay. And then as far as running people's IDs, our staff is going to be in
So
charge of that?
The plan is that they will have 1 or 2 personnel is what they talk about,
Oh, okay.
JSX staff that would operate their concession here. So they'd be responsible for checking in passengers, verifying IDs, scanning luggage
Okay.
with an X-ray machine, smaller than what you see at the larger airports, having metal detectors for passengers to walk through, or wands. So their staff, that'll be part of their obligation to meet their public charter obligations.
Okay.
That will not be on us. We'll do what we normally do, which is baggage handling. This will be in excess of our normal baggage handling, so we'll have fees for that. They will have a ramp to the aircraft, or stairs. Us moving that and storing that, there'll be cost to us for that we'll be passing along. Fueling is something that we will provide that service at the same charges and rates that we do every other charter operator that comes in and out of here. Right.
Okay.
And that's all going to fit in the lobby here?
We're looking at the square footage, with 30 passengers plus their staff. There is a lobby limitation for the first floor of how many we can have occupying this facility per fire code. So I think there is room for them to operate once per day, 4 days a week. More than that would have significant impact on this facility that we'd have to have further discussions about how they are configured to operate, perhaps in a different facility that doesn't exist right now. But at the initial basis, once a day, 4 times a week, I think we can support that. It would require a dedicated space for them, and that fireplace lounge allows some spillover into our common area that's used by the other 99% of our operators here. And then, of course, we already have a concession that's operating on the rest of the food and beverage portion of the first floor, and they have a separate lease that is their space. So we won't be able to allow them to infringe on that. So yeah, there's some work. There's a needle to thread here for the level of operations they are asking for. Going beyond that, I think would be far more difficult to operate out of this building unless we change the configuration of this room or something else. Right now, we're not planning on changing the use of this room as a community space. We talked about that with them. I think to do that functionally or permanently would significantly impact this space, and that would be a different conversation we'd have to have. We'd have to let space go in this room, essentially, which is possible, but I don't see that as something the board or the community is interested in losing. Teresa?
Yeah, I wanted to say I've flown GSX 2 or 3 times out of Reno. I think they only fly once a day out of Reno. They have 2 destinations from Reno. And the lobby space down there is not any bigger than it is here. And it's never been too crowded, and the planes have never been full, for what it's worth. I think they go like Reno to Oakland maybe, and Reno to,
They go to Vegas. They got, I think, four different places now from Reno, right?
but they also
Yeah.
are very seasonal. They only do Vegas in like half the year. Orange County is year round, and I think maybe Oakland.
Okay.
I have a question now.
Go, Mary.
Is, if they're saying they want to do it 4 days a week, is that year-round, or is that a seasonal thing, or is it still under negotiation?
I think it's still under negotiation. That would be the way we would structure an agreement with them, would be 4 days a week,
Year round.
year-round. If that's what they're interested in doing, we will develop a pricing structure around that, which is what we're doing right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Friday to Monday.
They've talked about what 4 days, but I think that is subject to their scheduling. We would agree to 4 days during. They've agreed to operate during outside of our quiet hours, so they're daytime operations, which fits with their normal business model. But right now, they haven't committed to which days it would be. Anecdotally, they talk about the busier days, which is Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, typically for their operations.
a reason I don't have a lot of questions is because I met with Rob and we talked about a lot of this process. But I do want to reiterate how you said they don't have a lot of choice in this. If they come to us and we have the room, And I also agree with you in that we need to be very clear in how this is communicated to the community at large. And, you know, maybe it should be on a website now so that people know it's coming, and with the caveat of that communication. But people, if we're going to be presented with an agreement next month, people should know about that now, as compared to it's a done deal and then, you know, then they find out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think not only is it in our interest to share this information with the community, but JSX is certainly interested in starting to advertise for this market. So
through e-blast
Yeah.
or through the newspaper.
Yeah. The last thing I would just beg is when you're doing the public communication, please don't say this is not commercial. It's commercial. It's not the same as United, Delta, and because of the way that they operate, but from the public's perspective, I think that just sounds like we're trying to obscure something. And we
yeah,
already
I think
do-
this is an area we're going to have to be very technical on the terminology, and so we probably won't use the term commercial because it's technically not that, right? It's a public charter and it operates once a day, and I think it's got a pretty good name brand now out, at least in the West, and I think it'll be very recognizable about what this is as far as how they operate. We'll certainly point towards their website collateral for people to understand more.
Okay, great. All right, let's go on to board committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports. We did that already.
Lauren's pulling that up now, and we'll start with housing. Any comments or updates beyond what's presented, Lauren?
No, it's, we had a housekeeping meeting where we just passed a budget and finalized our goals and passed a lease agreement with the Industrial Way apartment complexes.
For the river, there were no meetings this past month.
For Climate Transformation Alliance, I was, to see if Greg had anything. I know we're talking about having a strategic plan coming up here.
Yeah, similar to Lauren, felt kind of a housekeeping meeting, but we've got a strategic planning meeting in September. We'll have a lot more to report after that.
Okay. Act attendance?
We did not have an ACT meeting this month. Next month, we're planning on canceling the current date that's on there. And instead, we're tentatively scheduling a September 26th day to have our second noise meeting that we pushed off from earlier this summer. And we're planning on having that in the local Riverview Park, just at the end of the runway, just past the bike park area we were talking about earlier, in the afternoon, 4 to 5 p.m. On September 26th, which is a Friday. And so more to follow on that. We're just putting that together, but that would be our planned ACT meeting for September, would be our noise meeting too. And we plan on pushing out a lot of information on that, as we did last time, to let folks know that we're having this meeting outside, under the flight path, on a Friday when we typically see regular traffic, so people get the full effect of, if they haven't experienced it before because they're living in a different area, they'll get a sense of what it's like in our flight path here. And we'll talk about where we're at in the process of bringing on some new staff, looking at options in the future about how we're communicating around noise and annoyance and flight activity here. And we'll be putting together a whole program around that for an outside venue to communicate our obligation that we put out there, that we're going to have a second noise meeting outside in the flight path. So that's our plan for September for ACT meeting.
Okay.
It was a long answer to your question.
TNT TMA monthly update. Well, we'll come back to it for all of it.
No update on that, although we do have a new staff person on board, and soon I'll be talking with him about being our board representative on that entity.
Okay. Questions from the board? Mary?
I would like to attend the September 26th meeting. So I know, because you're always asking which board members are going to come. And are you still doing the budget on September 10th?
We are not going to have that meeting as an ACT meeting, and we'll reschedule that based on progress with the budget.
Okay.
Kat, anything? Greg?
It was the 26th?
26th,
The Friday?
Friday, yes, Friday afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to attend that as well.
We're trying to target one of our peak periods for when we see more aircraft activity happening. All right. Great. Greg and Mary, I'm down for attending. All right.
And just, what we did last time was, I think we did a special notice where it was not a meeting, but a quorum could exist, so all board members could attend.
Okay.
Okay.
We just can't
So I
call.
would assume we would do the same thing.
If there's interest of more than two showing up, then we'll certainly notify it as a meeting. All right.
Would you?
Or quorum.
Would you consider adding to that act agenda a discussion about JSX?
Absolutely, it'll be part of the conversation around noise. Sure.
Awesome. Okay. Do we have any public comment on the board committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports? Okay. So everybody good on that? We'll move on. General manager's report.
Thank you. Other than what's noted in the report, I'd like to welcome Liza Smith, our new Director of Finance and Administration. Welcome, Liza. Just a month on board now, and she's been getting after it pretty quick with getting her arms around the budget. And you'll see the first financials for June in your packet today, and we're quickly closing with July for next month and August as well. So we'll get caught up on our reporting. And then we'll begin, and I think I've already shared a budget note with the board about timing of our budget process. So would love any feedback you have on that. Other than that, I would highlight a couple other things. I did mention to the board, just so you know, we did get notified by the FAA about their desire to close our application for the $1.4 million funding we had earmarked for the A2 project that's currently open right now to reply back to the FAA by September 12th. We're scheduling a special meeting with the board to go through that process and talk about that. More to follow on that. We believe it's going to be September 9th. Is that the date I gave you, Lauren? Yeah. Yep. So we'll publish that as part of a regular notification to the public. Budget timeline, I did share an email. We are planning on the week of September 15th, I believe, to start holding individual meetings between Liza, myself, and individual board directors. So I'll be asking Lauren to follow up with you individually to try to schedule time, either virtually, in person, to walk through our initial draft of budget. To get your individual feedback so we can pull that all together into our first planned budget workshop at the September board meeting, starting early at 1 p.m. for our normal board meeting day in September. And that's all I have in updates other than what is provided.
Any questions, Teresa? Mary? Greg? Kat? Yeah, I just wanted to welcome Liza as well. You're joining a fantastic team, and it's a great place. So welcome to that. Do we have any public comment on the general manager's report? No public comment. All right, close that. Future agenda priorities and meeting management.
I would go over, before we do that, if we go to the legal update, and then
sorry.
we
Oh,
have
of course. I thought we were done
AvCom
with the whole
report,
thing.
and then finance.
My apologies. Okay.
Thank you.
So my report this month is just a reminder on the state legislative process. They're sort of almost at the finish line there. The deadline for both houses to pass bills is September 13th. And then a month after that is the deadline for the governor to sign those. Once we have, and I said the 13th, that I meant the 12th, September 12th and October 12th. Once we have an idea of what bills are going to actually move forward, like previous years, we'll provide a summary to the board. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And aviation.
I too would like to welcome a new member to the team. So we have Larry Finney, who's now a member of the team as our new Safety, Security, Community Outreach. So he just started a little bit over a week ago, so on the 18th. Operations were up a little bit, July over July. In terms of Fly Safe, we had a runway safety action team meeting. Director Rolfe and Director Diamond were there. In the room and on Zoom, we had about 50 people attending. Next month, we have Juan Brown. Will be conducting our Fly Safe seminar on backcountry flying. He is what I call a aviation social influencer. He has a huge following. So I would not be surprised if this room is packed. We may even have some spillover and maybe set up some TVs out in the terminal, but a lot of interest in that. Last weekend, we had our second Mountain Lion flight clinic. We had 28 pilots attend to that. And later this month, or I should say first week of September, we're going to have a glider flight clinic as well. So it's under the moniker of the Fly Safe programs. Under STEAM, TTCF awarded the scholarships. I'd recommend you go check out who received them. It's pretty cool looking at what some of these young people are doing regarding engineering and the aviation programs that they are pursuing. Lastly, in terms of hangars, the board last December, we approved when we updated our minimum standards after the FAA land use inspection in terms of addressing derelict aircraft that are derelict and not flying. The board approved that hangar tenants utilize the hangar 14 nights annually with their assigned aircraft and fly once every 6 months. So we just sent out the first notices this month to let folks know that they're may not be meeting that. We're being very open. If somebody has a medical issue, they had a surgery, something's going on with their aircraft, maintenance, aviation, we're being very reasonable to accommodate any and all of those. But we're just beginning those conversations. It's really there's a handful of aircraft on the airfield that have not flown in years, as in close to a decade. And so we're implementing, per the FAA's guidance, some minimum standards. They're implemented into policy, and so now that policy is beginning to take effect. So we are continuing to pursue that. That is everything I have, barring any questions.
Okay, any questions for Jeff?
I just wanted to make a comment about the 4 recipients of our $40,000 aviation grant. We had one young woman who was a third-time recipient, and she's at FIT and starting her master's program. And we had another kid who was a second year recipient, who is finishing up his hours in Riverside to move back home. He just got married this summer, and his wife just got a job as an ER doctor in Northern Nevada hospital, and he's going to fly for CAL FIRE. And then my next door neighbor, who's a sophomore at North Dakota, and he's almost finished his hours, so he can start working. But the last kid was a first-time recipient who, these kids just really touch my heart, but he grew up in Truckee with very challenging circumstances, and graduated Truckee High, got a full ride to Stanford, got a mechanical engineer's degree, and is going for a 2-year aeronautical engineering degree at Michigan. And we gave him 12 grand. And another donor from this group gave him another 30, and I was able to call him and tell him, and he was, dumbstruck, and still only covered about 25% of what the 2-year tuition was. And then Phyllis found a donor in Tahoe, Donner, who heard his story and gave another 50. So this kid is walking away with, 80 plus grand. It's gonna fund 60% probably, but he'll be able to work, and it's just it just means a lot that the airport is supporting these kids, And for budget, I'll be asking for more for next year.
Greg, any questions? Mary? Teresa? Okay.
Liza, any comments
Finance?
on financials?
No, not really. Rob, I think you said pretty much everything I wanted to say. I'm really thrilled to be here. I have taken the first few weeks and tried to, produce a profit and loss statement for you to review. So we got through June. I've just finished July. And as I go through July, there are things that I didn't know when I was doing June. So nothing major, but I'm learning a lot as I'm going, and we will get you a balance sheet also to review with the profit and loss information that you're seeing, hopefully by next month. Since I pretty much wrapped up July, I'm doing a pivot right now to the budget. I'm starting the 26 budget, reformatting and getting that ready to move forward. So I'm working on that, the format and getting that ready to work with, and we'll be sticking to the schedule that Rob sent out, and I'll be reaching out to y'all, and we can schedule some time to chat and make sure I understand what's important to you and what's important that you see in reports that I'm providing and that type of thing. So just shout at me anytime if you need anything.
Thanks, Liza. Any questions for Liza from the board?
I have two. One, interest other revenue is 75% off of budget. Any reason why? Any red flags, anything major that it's $566,000 short?
Yeah.
And our investment interest is usually pretty stable.
I was just looking at that today, actually. I was emailing with Rob. A good chunk of money is in Wells Fargo in the property tax account. Excuse me. And that account right now, from what I can tell, is not earning any interest. So I set up a new account with the Cal class, which isn't approved in the investment policy. So tomorrow it should all be set up and ready to roll. I can move a very large chunk of money over there. And if I can do that right now, I mean, we're going to be behind, but that will help catch up quite a bit. I've trued up. We received LAIF, that's a quarterly true up, and all that came in. That was $50-something thousand. I think that I booked that in June. And then the bummer is the biggest, the two Wells Fargo accounts are just checking accounts, and there's no interest tied to those. So actually I have a meeting set up with the Wells Fargo folks on Friday to see if we can move, even when we have, minimal money to cover operations and payroll and that type of thing. That should be earning interest as well, at least something. So, yeah, that was a task actually today that we had just talked about. So.
And if I could just highlight the other two big ones on there that you see on the screen here is that there was budgeted grant revenue for the FAA grant for $1.4 million for Alpha 2 that we have not. It was budgeted before we knew last October. The spread of it is showing up now as if we got it. We haven't applied for it. It's a reimbursable, so that's showing up there. As an expectations, we're short of that.
Which line would that fall under?
That's other income revenue.
Other business leasing revenue?
The other income revenue, property taxes, grants, and interest.
There's interest, which we just talked about, and then other business leasing revenue, if you bring up the report.
Oh, on that report.
So that's in, it's not on those lines. It's in a separate line. It's grant. I guess it would be pulled into other interest and other revenue line.
Other revenue, that year to date. 10 million. Yeah, I don't think that's pulling in that summary sheet that you're seeing.
So if it's not included in this, wait, yeah, that was it, Lauren, you had it, the yellow one. Yeah. If it's not under the revenue, what's gonna change?
There's a grant line that is not showing right here. I don't see pulling in there unless it's under the property tax lines.
I mean, would it show 1.4 million?
It wouldn't show,
Right now?
it wouldn't show the 1.4, it's shown probably about a third of that, that was in the budget spread as expectation to be received already.
Oh, I see what, it's mixed, so the
With the interest?
It's in other-
revenue.
Yeah, it's in the interest of the revenue line.
Well,
Okay.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the interest year-to-date through June budget is 175, actual is 188. And so of that 1.4 that Rob is talking about, $560,000 is budgeted as revenue through June, and there's a
So
zero
we're pretty
against that.
even on actual interest.
The interest is pretty even.
Okay, that's good.
So we're gonna be over that with the other.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of July, because I just look at July, but with Liza's moving some money around between changing of people, we have a little bit of money sitting, getting no interest right now, so your comment is actually a little forward thinking, and Liza's already addressing that right now, to get more return on our money sitting there.
So,
Right.
follow-up question, in next month's report, can we see it on a separate line rather than interest?
Sure.
The grant revenue, yeah,
Revenue.
right, yeah.
And then my last question was, under operating expenses, can that be expanded? I'd like to see some line items under there.
Okay. Anything specific, or do you
No.
wanna? Okay.
I don't, I like to look at them all.
Okay. And anytime too, you can come in or I can send you detail, if everybody doesn't wanna see it, but yeah, you can add more detail for sure.
Thanks, and welcome.
Mary, any questions?
No.
Brett? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't want to put Liza on the spot for this, but it's something that you had sent us in the, one of your weekly updates. The insurance reimbursement was significantly low, it seemed like. Is there,
So this is our hangar claim insurance reimbursement?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we've been working with an outside consultant, going through the detailed filings with AIG's sub-consultant who goes through their details. We're landing on agreed upon for materials and construction contract for like of, looks like 1.5 million reimbursement. Certainly our cost was more than that because we did things beyond the one-for-one cost of replacement. So when there were 4 Portlands in one hangar and we replaced it with 9, we're having to pay for those additional purlins that were put in place. We did a lot of that very knowingly in order to improve upon the condition that we saw fail before. Based on structural engineer feedback, our insurance does not provide coverage for improvements, for betterments, they call it. And so there is a difference there, and I'm breaking out what those differences between our agreed upon coverage with AIG and what we did for the project. There still is a separate claim we're working on for lost revenue, which is in a separate process that we're working on. Currently, we're showing around $150,000 in lost revenue that we're just starting to work through the details on that piece of it. But it looks like the 1.5, we're close to getting a check cut for that, minus the $100,000 they've already gave us up front. And I'll have the full detail on that to share with the board here over the next week.
Do we have any public comment on anything under the general manager's report? Okay, seeing none. Future agenda priorities and meeting management.
Future priorities, other than what's on the rolling agenda, is we do plan on having the September and October board meetings start at 1 p.m. to be budget workshops. So that will be a modification to what's currently listed on the rolling agenda. And we are planning a special board meeting on September 9th now. And then we'll be adding the change to the public outreach meeting on September 26th to the agenda as well. Those are the changes I have.
Okay, any board questions on that? Any public?
Quick
Oh,
question.
sorry. Yeah.
Lauren, will you send calendar invites for all that? Okay, great, thanks.
Do we have any public comment on this? No public comment. Staff and board conference attendance reports. Anything from the board? No, anything from staff?
We have none.
Okay, board member announcements. Anybody have a board member announcement? Nope. Okay, that's done. So our next regular meeting, September 24th at 4:30 PM. And then as Rob mentioned, we will have a special meeting on the 9th at 1 o'clock PM. And motion to adjourn? Wait,
Didn't I just hear that the September regular board meeting will start at 1 because we're gonna do budget first?
Yes.
oh, okay. Sorry, 1 o'clock.
Correct.
Thanks.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yay. Thanks, everybody.